Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited to share with you guys my 2026 book journal. If you're new here, I love to share about my book journals. I started book journaling in 2024. This is my third book journal. And basically, I set up my journal in ways to track my reading and set goals, but I also annotate my books while I read, and I use that information in my journal. So when I read a book, I like to annotate for character descriptions, world rules, my favorite quotes, anything about the book that I want to remember, and then that goes in my journal once I read that book. So this is my journal I selected for this year. I apologize that this video is coming out a little bit later than I wanted. There was just a lot of things going on in life, especially with the holidays, and then as you may tell from my voice, I am getting over being sick, so I do sound a little nasally right now, but I did really want to get this video out. So the journal I selected for this year is the Lemon Love journal by Notebook Therapy. This is my third journal I've bought from them, and I've loved it. The quality is great, and I love the themes and the designs that they have. Also, something that I like to do with my journals, if you're new here, is I like to theme my journals with a theme that I carry throughout all of my journal spreads that I use in the beginning of my journal, and I'll kind of go through that and how I incorporated the theme for this year in this journal. So without further ado, let me go ahead and just open it up and share with you guys my 2026 reading journal. So the theme that I selected for this year is circus, which is why I chose the Lemon Love journal, because I thought, lemonade, the yellow, I think it very much suited the circus kind of vibes. The first thing I'll show you is the map that I've drawn in the beginning of the journal. So all of my journals, I have drawn a map so far, and that map is something that is incorporated through the rest of my journal spreads. So I'll kind of explain that as I go and how I did that with this year's theme. So let me go and open this up. So here is the map that I drew for my journal for the circus theme. I normally do a black and white map, but this year I decided to make it colorful because I thought, well, if it's a circus, I feel like it needs to be a little bit more bright. And so I didn't want to keep it black and white, so I did color it in. I also incorporated some stickers because I thought that would be easier than me drawing everything by hand. So I did incorporate some stickers on the map instead of drawing those things. I really love, over here I found this circus scrapbook paper, and I tried to draw the same kind of font underneath it, which I'm really proud of. I really love how that turned out. And so you'll see the various journal spread pages incorporated into this map. But for now, this is kind of like the entrance, and some more like non-subtle ones will be like, this is the calliope, the popcorn cart. This is kind of like the main tent where the main attractions happen. This is where like the fire breather is, strong man. So you kind of see those incorporated as I go through to my different journal spreads. And this was just kind of a fun thing I wanted to do. So this is like a juggler, and he's throwing balls up in the air. And so I also added some circus animals on top of the balls. So this is my map for my journal. And then if we flip the page here, you'll go to the first page over here. This is like my kind of like welcome page, I guess. I always do one. So this just shows like this is my 2026 book journal. This is like the main tent that was like in the center of the map, where kind of like all the main attractions happen. And then I've just kind of added some other fun stickers here. There's a guy like doing something on a bicycle, where he's riding a cannon of a clown, and then another clown riding some balloons over here. So this is like my introduction page. And then on this side here, this is my index page. So the theme for this page is like a ticket booth. And so what I have done here is, it's like this is where you're gaining entry into the circus, and what's listed here, there's like a clock and then the event. And so this is kind of like, you can kind of see what you're interested in going to, but this is like my index. So the numbers here are actually the page numbers, and then the event is like the, you know, the name of the spread that is on that page. So far all the events that I have listed are just the spreads that I have in the beginning of my journal. So that's the introduction page and the index. And then I flip the page here. On the left side here, this is my books recommended page. This is the fire breather theme. Basically, my thought was that if someone really enjoys a book, then their mouth will kind of be on fire for that book. So this is the theme I thought would be best suited for this spread. I like to incorporate this because I think it's fun to see like how many books people recommend to me over the year. And there's no particular like reason why I've given so many spaces to myself. It's just what I had space for on this spread. But it's just kind of fun to like write down books that people recommend to me. And I can kind of see like when I found out about that book. So this is my books recommended spread. And then on the right side here, this is my book tracker. This one I'm really proud of. I try to do something a little bit different and try to be a little bit more creative with this one. So basically, this one is a strong man game. So basically, every time I read a book, I will color in one of these boxes here. And I also added an extra slip of paper here, so this actually moves. And so every time I read a book, I can actually slide this thing up. And hopefully my goal this year is to read 25 books. Last year, I ended up reading 24 books out of my goal of 25, which was really, really close. But I'm really proud of myself because I read 2 more books than I did last year, or the year before, in 2024. So that was really exciting. So I'm hoping that I can get to at least 25 this year. I wanted to set like a reasonable goal that I feel like I could reach. So hopefully I get there. But yeah, so this is my strong man page. I really, really love the way that this turned out. And then moving on to the next page. So on the left side here, this is my book bingo spread. I love doing the book bingo. I think it's just like a fun way to, you know, it's just kind of a fun way to engage with your reading. So I did choose some of the prompts that I didn't color in from last year, and then I tried to look up online for some more ideas. So this is just kind of a fun way to engage with your reading over the year, and I really love it. I think it's just a fun idea and kind of gives me something to look forward to, like when I read a book, I try to find, you know, a box to color in. So I have a variety of different prompts here. Sometimes I'll just go online and do different generators, like a generator for a letter, like the first letter of the book begins with this letter, or a year the book was published, or, you know, just things like that where I'm not going out of my way to select those things. I just have a generator do it for me. So there are some prompts that I've done like that, and then some that I've just found online that I'm like, oh, I haven't done that one before. So the theme for this spread is like fortune teller booth. So I have like my fortune teller lady up here with her crystal ball. And so I thought that kind of fit the theme with the bingo a little bit. Like, I guess, I don't know, maybe trying to think like, oh, which book fits this prompt, or like, what book should I read next? Try to get a bingo. I don't know. But I do really like the way this turned out. I think it turned out really good. And then on the right side here, I have my rating system. So for the last 2 years, I guess, is my third journal, I have used the Compile rating system for how I rate my books. And I was informed that this rating system was created by the YouTuber Book Roast, and I really enjoyed using this rating system. I feel like it's definitely helped me better gauge my thoughts and feelings about a book, and I think it puts it in a way that is a little bit more objective, and I'm not just basing my rating off of like the ending or like the feeling I got at the end of the book. And so for the theme for this one, I decided to do like a game of darts. And so it's like, how well did the book kind of like hit the nail on the head, like for each of these categories, although instead of nails, it's darts. I wish, looking back, I would have made this like a spinning wheel. I just drew it on the page, but I'm still really happy with it, the way that it came out, but I do wish I had maybe put like a disc on top of the page so it could spin, but that's okay. So this is a game of darts, and so I have like some darts here, and there's 2 clowns, and then the how to play, which is basically like how you come up with your rating. So basically you rate your book in each of these categories out of 10, and then you add the whole sum up together, and then you divide that total by 7 to get your star rating. And then moving on to my next spread here, this is my 2026 TBR. This is the popcorn cart. And so the idea behind this being my TBR spread was basically like just kind of similar to what I did last year, where it was like you're hungry, so it's like which book do you want to read next, like, you know, which story are you hungry for. It could also be like popcorning between different books / book series. I try to do more standalones or just like single books. Like I think include maybe one in here that is like the beginning of a series. So you could also put it as like, oh, you're popcorning around to different book series. And I also really liked that I did the like the 2026 TBR. They're like butter sticks, so I think that was kind of fun, like butter popcorn. And then I also did a Dutch door, so this is kind of fun too, where it kind of like perfectly lines up with the other page, which I really like, so you can kind of change it up on both sides. So the books that I selected for this year, I did try to like theme around my circus theme, and so I do have some that are circus themed books, not all of them, but some of them are. So Suspended in the Stars is I believe it's an indie published book, but it's basically been described to me as like Greatest Showman, but in outer space. And then I also included the Caraval series and the Night Circus. I've been really wanting to read this series, and I've heard lots of good things about this book. And then the other books that I selected were kind of just books that I've been wanting to read, or I didn't get to them last year, and truly like I fell in love with the series that I started last year, and so I didn't want to just like wait a whole year to go back to them, so I did include them again on this year's TBR. Before I get into those ones, I'll just go through the rest of the books that I have on my list here. So another sci-fi one I have here is The Stardust Grail, which it's not circus, but it has been described to me as like Indiana Jones, but in outer space, and I thought that'd be kind of fun since I'm also reading another sci-fi book. The 13th Child, I'm really excited to read that book because I love grim fairy tales, and I love when people do retellings of them. I think that's super fun, and I love the way that authors are creative and how they make the story their own. And I just really love the fairy tale that this one was inspired from, so I'm really excited and looking forward to what Aaron Craig does with this. And then I'm also wanting to read the Powerless series. Well, I guess I only have the first 2 books here. I know that I think the third one has already come out. I know people have had mixed reviews about this book. I hope that I end up liking it because I wanted to read the first and the second one. I wanted to at least give it a try and see what my personal thoughts were on it. And then over here I have Under an Emerald Spell and Upon a Winter Curse by Jordan Riley Swan. These are the second and third book in the A Romance in Oz series. I read his first book in 2024, and I got these 2 books in 2025 over the summer. So I wanted to add them to this year's TBR so I can complete the series since I've already read the first one. Hello, from future editing me, interrupting your regularly scheduled program. I just felt like I needed to say a little bit more about these books, and so I wanted to just come on here and just say a few more things about the Romance in Oz books. So there's actually a really wonderful story behind these books that I have shared a little bit about on my Instagram, but for those who don't know the story, I wanted to share. Basically, in 2024, when I started to read more and started my first book journal, I had gone to a book festival where I had found this author, Jordan Riley Swan, and purchased his first book in the Romance in Oz series called Into a Wicked World.
And I had already planned all the books that I was going to read in 2024, but this one really intrigued me, and so I ended up reading it in the fall and journaled about it in my journal. And so basically the beginning of 2025, when I posted my reading journal flip through, his editor actually came across my video and shared it with him, and he posted about it on his Instagram. And I thought that was just like the coolest thing ever. I was like, oh my gosh, he noticed me, he saw my journal. It was super wonderful and such a great feeling to feel like, wow, like he actually saw like my journal and my video. So I had known that he was coming out with 2 more books in this series in 2025, and I was hoping that he would also be at this book festival again that I found him out the previous year. And so I was hoping that I could purchase the next 2 books of this series at this festival. And he was there. And so I planned to bring my journal and show it to him and be like, I'm that person who journaled about your book. Um, and so when I went to the festival, I found his booth, and there was someone else he was like talking to. So while I was waiting, I was looking at his other 2 books that um, he just came out with. So those are The Under Emerald Spell and also Upon a Winter's Curse. So this is the second one, and this is the third book. And so I was just like flipping through them as I was waiting, and when I came across this book, I flip it open, and I literally turn to my friend, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's me. So I opened up to the dedication page, and I have to show you guys this. It says, to the YouTuber, Field Notes on Fiction, your lovely words in your reading journal video helped motivate me to keep writing this series when I doubted it and myself. Like, oh my gosh. I was literally freaking out. I was like, there is no way. That is literally so amazing. So I just had to share that story because, first of all, this author is so wonderful, so friendly, and I love his story. And I love that, just that feeling that you get when you're like, wow, like knowing like you had an impact on someone else, and just thinking like, I just started reading more, 2 years ago in 2024, and well, I guess last year and a year ago. And, I just started reading and I just started journaling. This was a totally new thing for me. And then to think that, like, wow, like, even the small thing of me just journaling about books could even have an impact on someone. And so that was just such an incredible feeling and such a fun story. I was like, oh my gosh. And so when it was my turn to get up there, I had this book in my hand and I had my journal ready, and I was like, I'm that person who journal about your book. And it was so fun. He was so friendly, and it was just the most magical moment, I think, in my entire life. Like the coolest thing that's ever happened to me. And I just had to come on here and share this because his story is amazing, and I want to just give a little bit more recognition to this book series. But I'm really excited to read these books. I'm really excited to journal about these books. And I think that if you are someone who wants like kind of a cozy romance, I think the first book was definitely that for me. There were some moments that I felt like the first book was definitely a little bit intense. But I think it was such a fun, like, retelling of The Wizard of Oz. I loved the romance between Dorothy and Nick Chopper, and honestly, I think the writer's really witty. I really loved the beginning of the book. I think there was a lot of really witty lines, and it was just a fun story. So I'm really excited to continue it. I definitely would recommend you guys pick up the series. So, anyways, back to your regularly scheduled program.
And then I also have the Naturals series. I read the first book, like, I think when I was like in high school, and it's been since then that I've read that book. Like, I haven't read it since, and I've never finished the series. So I've been wanting to finally finish this book series. And I do remember really enjoying the first one, so I think that these will be really easy for me to read. I think the premise of the story is really interesting. And then if I flip it onto this side, these were 3 books that I wanted to read in 2024 and didn't read. I didn't get the chance to read them, so I wanted to read them this year. They're also a little bit shorter, so I thought that would be kind of nice to incorporate some shorter books into my TBR just to give me more of like the chance to read all these books. I do actually have I have 30 books in total on this list. Although my goal is 25 books because I wanted to still give myself a realistic goal. But ideally, I would love to read all 30 of these books this year. So these 3 books are by Holly Black, and I don't think that they're necessarily like, they're not like novels of Elfame, but they're still in the same universe as like Elfame, and like I think there are some characters that are maybe from those novels that are in these books. I'm not sure. But like I said, I wanted to read them in 2024 but didn't get a chance, so I'm really excited to get to them this year. And then this book here, Where There Be Monsters, I truly haven't heard anything about this book. I put it on my list because I love the cover. I think the cover is really pretty. And I did see it at a book festival last summer, and I just thought it looked really intriguing to me. So it is a middle grade novel, but it looks really interesting, so I'm hoping I enjoy it. I might save this one and this book for more of the autumn time, just because I think it would be more fun, especially like around October. This one, Curse the Day, has been described to me as kind of like Halloween Town vibes, and I love Halloween Town. Like, Halloween Town is like one of my favorite Halloween movies. It's just super nostalgic for me. It's just been a part of my childhood, and I just love the movies. I just think they're so fun. So this has been described to me as kind of like a Halloween Town-esque book. So I think this will be really fun to read, and I've been wanting to read it for a while now. So I'm going to hopefully get to this one this year. And then the rest of the books here, you may recognize if you watched my video of my last year's reading journal, because these books were on the list. Unfortunately, I did not get to them, so which is why I added them to this year's TBR, because I really enjoyed reading the first book of Three Dark Crowns, and I also really have been enjoying the Mortal Instruments series, and so I wanted to finish these books and continue the series this year instead of stopping and then trying to come back to them years later. So I also added those books to my TBR as well. So yeah, so these are my books I've selected for this year. And then if I flip the page here, this is my calliope spread. So I'm super proud of this one because I did freehand this drawing. I did have like inspiration, but I did draw this all by myself, and it took me like an entire day to draw. So I'm very proud of it. So in the past 2 book journals that I've done like kind of library, like secret library or magical library, where basically like there'll be like empty kind of blank books, and then I would write the book that I read on the spine and then colored it in. But since my theme for this year is the circus, I was like, well, there's not necessarily like a library at the circus. So I instead had the idea to do a calliope, which is basically like a carriage that plays music. And so what I've done instead is I've left the organ pipes blank, and so every time I read a book, I will write the name of the book on the pipe, and then I'll color it in. So I thought that would be pretty fun. A fun way to incorporate like still like doing something where it's like a library and still tracking the books that I've read. So yeah, that's what this is. Okay, and then so for this next book spread, this is my books bought. So the theme for this one is juggling, because I thought it would make sense to do like, you know, how well am I juggling the books that I bought? And so oftentimes I try to buy books that I'm planning on reading. So for like this year, if I don't have one of the books that I want to read, then like obviously that will be a book that I'm buying. But I do try to not buy a bunch of books that I like don't plan on reading for that year, or like you know, it's not a book, like if it's a book that I've been really wanting to read but I might not get to it this year, like I'll still buy it. Or if I just find it like at the thrift store, or like it's, you know, a couple dollars, I'll buy it. I try not to buy a lot of new books, and I try not to buy books that I'm just buying because they look pretty and then I put them on my shelf. I want to make sure that I'm still like buying books that I will read, so that my like physical TBR is not, you know, getting too large, that I'm like having all these books on my shelves that I haven't read. I thought that the theme with juggling kind of suited this page pretty well. And so I have just some different clowns with different, you know, they have different, they're juggling different balls. And so, yeah, and I think the nice thing about this spread is that you can see like when you bought it. And so like going back, if I wanted to, I could see like how long have I had this book? Like, is it a book that I had for a long time? And so that might encourage me to put it on next year's TBR, or, you know, I can go back and see how long I've had a book and then kind of evaluate like, okay, I probably need to read this sooner rather than later. So yeah, so this is my book spot spread. And then this is my reading tracker spread. This one I've done a little differently this year. I normally make the boxes a little bit smaller, but I decided to do it this way because the theme for this spread is tightrope walker. So I have like my 2 tightrope walkers at the top here, and basically like the idea was like they're tightrope walking like from the beginning of the month to the end of the month. So it's like they're, you know, can they cross all the way? I usually never read every single day of the month, but the idea is there. And then since I was doing like horizontal boxes, it didn't really take up a lot of space when I did like the small boxes like I've done for previous years. So I ended up making them a little bit bigger just to like take up more of the space. So I do like the way that this looks though, because I do like that it does fill up the pages a little bit more. So basically I'll color in a box for each day of the month that I've read, and then I can kind of see, you know, over the months like how many days I've read, and then obviously at the end of the year I can see like how many days in total I've read, which is really fun just to kind of give yourself like those statistics. I think that's just kind of fun to see like how many days did I read this year, and like, you know, which months did I read more than others and all of that. So I think that's really fun. Yeah, so that's my reading tracker spread. And then this next spread here is my reading log. This one I had a lot of trouble figuring out like how to make it look the way that I wanted to, and I feel like I'm pretty satisfied with it now, but I did have like a lot of like, I wasn't sure like how do I make the space, like how do I fill the space up? Basically the theme for this one is a trapeze act. So basically it's like trapeze artists, you know, they swing from one platform to another platform, or from one bar to another bar. And so it's kind of like you're swinging from like, here's the start date, and then you swing to the end date of when I started and finished a book. So that's why I chose this theme for my reading log. I think, yeah, I am happy with how it turned out now, but I was like trying to figure out like how do I incorporate this theme into this page, and I think it looks okay. I try to do like platforms here, and then I do have like some, you know, people up here, and then obviously there's other trapeze artists down at the bottom, and then I did draw in some like swinging bars. So basically this spread is just for me to keep track of like when I start and finish a book. So that's that spread. And then the final spread I have here, this is my book bracket. I love doing this. It's just so much fun to see kind of like what's your best or favorite book of the entire year. So basically like I will choose my kind of favorite book from each month, and then like the first 2 months will compete and I'll choose my favorite book, then the second 2 months will compete and I'll choose my favorite book, and then obviously like it keeps going down until you get to the bottom here and you'll see your favorite book of the whole year. And so the person I have here is like the master of ceremonies, the head of the circus. So he's like, okay, so it's like which book is like the head of the circus? Which one is the one that triumphs over all? That's like the best of all of them. And then I added some other stickers here that were kind of just like other circus acts. So I have like some people balancing on an elephant, there's a cannon, seal, there's kind of like another performer here, there's the lion tamer, there's another clown. Yeah, so this is kind of like the final show of the circus, like the grand finale. So I thought that that suited the book bracket theme pretty well. So those are all the pages that I have done for my 2026 book journal. I'm super excited and really love how it turned out. I'm looking forward to using it this year. I think the theme is super fun. I hope you enjoyed coming along with me, looking through all of my book journal spreads. Hopefully that gave you some inspiration as well if you haven't already done a journal for this year, or you have never done a journal before and you're like, oh, maybe I want to. You can make a journal any time of the year. It doesn't have to start at January or December. It literally can be whenever you want. And I will hopefully be getting out a kind of recap and flip through of my 2025 book journal here soon. Again, I was a little bit behind on getting this video out, so hopefully I'll get the other one out there soon. It's just like, yeah, there's been a lot of things going on. So that video will be out at some point, so please look forward to that. And if you're not subscribed yet, please consider subscribing so that way you can see when I do post other videos. I'm kind of a casual uploader. So I don't always upload a lot of videos, and I've been doing this more so as a hobby, but if you would like to see more content from me, I would love for you to follow me on this journey. And also, if you did a journal this year or have read any of the books that are on my TBR this year, I'd love to hear your thoughts or comments below, so please leave me a comment. I do read them, and I will hopefully see you in my next video.